Recently, Vice President Al Gore challenged the United States to move to 100% renewable energy for all of our electricity within 10 years. What do you think of this goal? Is it viable? And if so, how do we do it?
Well, the Vice President has challenged the country to an excellent goal. The idea of getting off carbon entirely for our electricity is where we need to go in time. Whether we can achieve it in 10 years or not is really the issue. Right now, the country is 50% powered by coal for our electricity, with natural gas and a little bit of oil and diesel mixed in with the low carbon sources of nuclear and some wind power and hydro, and then a little bit of landfill and solar. So we have a huge challenge if you want to make it. And the estimates for what it would take are between $3 and $5 trillion to do it. Now that sounds like just an exorbitant amount, but given that we spend $1 trillion a year on energy, 700 billion of which is imported, it's a number which we would repay ourselves pretty quickly by taking this on. The problem is that we have so much invested in our fossil fuel system, and so few of the clean energy alternatives are being financed to the degree we would need to put them in place, that this goal is probably out of reach. But you sure don't get there without trying. And so the Vice President has set the kind of goal we're going to need. Whether we can get there or not, we'll see.
So how close to 100% renewables can we get? I mean, there are a lot of opportunities with energy conservation, with energy efficiency, wind, solar. There are a lot of renewable portfolio standards being raised around the country. 9 states have renewable portfolio standards of at least 20% by 2020 at the earliest. How far can renewables and conservation get us towards that goal?
Well, if we were to push aggressively on the range of things, starting with energy efficiency for our buildings, homes, industry, and then building out as aggressively as we could for wind power, that could be 20% or a fifth of our energy, solar that could perhaps be 5 or 10%, we could build more hydro systems, which is controversial, we could potentially build more nuclear, also controversial. We could probably get somewhere in the 70 or more % decarbonized, which puts us in the quote-unquote safe zone for the climate. It doesn't mean that there's no risk of catastrophic climate change. It means we've reduced that risk to perhaps 15 or 20%, which is much a higher risk than we take for many things at home, like our car insurance, health insurance, but it's far below the risk we currently face, perhaps 70 or more % of a risk of really catastrophic change. Total change in the glacier systems, huge degrees of flooding and droughts, changes in the poles and things that we really can't afford to do, nor do we want to even play with.
So many people charge that part of the problem with wind and solar is that they're intermittent power sources. Are we there yet in terms of being able to pump water up a hill, compress air, or store energy from wind and solar in a way that would give us those meaningful jumps in the usage of those two?
No, we're not there yet. We know how to do these sorts of storage technologies technically, but cost effectively we don't. And we can't do things that are just wildly cost ineffective because that would remove the money for other technologies. So we need a crash research program, a Manhattan Project or an Apollo program, if you will, on clean energy. But all of these technologies don't need those aggressive storage things right away. We have so little wind and solar and biofuels on the grid today that we could ramp up dramatically from where we are now and not get to the point for quite some time where the storage issues become our rate limiting step. So we need those, but we have time to develop them. We just have to get on with the job. And if we don't get as much renewables developed and deployed now as we can, it's just not going to make a difference whether we have the perfected technologies for storage 10 or 15 years down the road.